Hello, I'm Celia Higginbotham.
Thank you for joining me today as I review research findings regarding skin conductance levels of children on the autism spectrum. It is helpful to know some basics about autism spectrum disorder, or ASD for short. ASD is a lifelong neurological disorder with symptoms that vary based on the presentation of the symptoms and the level of functionality. Our focus today is this second domain of disability, specifically the fourth area of dysfunction. You should know that what neurotypical people feel as kind or comforting touch might be painful to someone with ASD. A car ride might make someone on the spectrum so sick that they can't function once they arrive at their destination. Certain sounds, lights, or smells can be painful or even induce nausea. Imagine how this might negatively impact family interactions, classroom interactions, or romantic partnerships.
Researchers set out to gain insight at the most basic level of electrical signaling in the skin and limited participation to children labeled as high-functioning autistic or Asperger's syndrome, the most verbal part of the spectrum. Researchers set out to answer the following 5 questions. We're talking about kids who may find touch painful, and you want to stick electrodes on them? That could go very wrong. Getting similar results during multiple data collection episodes could be tricky with a population that seems defined by variability and symptomatic change. Electrodermal activity is changes in the electrical conductance of the skin. EDA depends on the quantity of sweat secreted by eccrine sweat glands, which are both thermoregulatory and regulated by CNS affective and cognitive states. So, mental and emotional sweating can also affect electrodermal activity and thus be measurable when stimuli is not tactile. In the early 2000s, doctors wanted to know if there are physiological differences between these two types of autism. Many ASD people are on medications of various types. If medication plays a role in sensitivity, then reactivity as a diagnostic criteria is questionable. Participants came separately to the lab, which was decorated and painted to look like the interior of a spaceship, including low light levels. The child sat in a sturdy armchair mounted to a motorized tilting frame in front of a small console with a video monitor and a strobe light. While the experimenter attached electrodes, the child watched appropriate parts of Apollo 13, depicting astronauts having electrodes attached to them. Once ready, the child was given the sensory challenge protocol, which works as follows. EDA was recorded continuously with Palmer electrodes beginning with a 3-minute baseline period, followed by the separate presentations of 6 stimuli. The experiment ended with a 3-minute recovery period of no stimuli in which EDA remained recorded.
So, what were the answers to the research questions?
Yes, 95% of the sample group was able to complete the lab protocol while maintaining electrodes and not creating artifacts in the data by moving. Yes, a portion of the test group was later retested. The intra-class correlation values here, that is the right column, indicate that the test findings can be reliably reproduced. Most of these correlations are in the fair, good, or excellent range. The best description, according to these results, is that there is a high degree of variability on tonic and phasic variables, which is seen in the large deviations from the mean. Simply put, no. They did find, even though it was not a driving question behind the research, that the participants did fall into 2 groups based not on IQ, but on sensitivity level, hyposensitive and hypersensitive. The data showed that the no medication group had similar EDA to the total group, so medication is not the underlying cause of sensitivity in ASD. This successful study provided evidence that there is not a sympathetic nervous system difference between children previously labeled as high-functioning autistic and those with Asperger's syndrome. The most significant finding was a confirmation of the 2 arousal patterns in children with ASD.
Hyper or hypo reactivity are real physiological phenomenon for ASD people, and their reactions to stimuli should not be treated as imaginary or acts of weakness or attempts to manipulate others for sympathy or control. This may, however, suggest a defect in the information processing of novel stimuli. Further study regarding the cause of these sensory processing differences could prove extremely helpful.